Hi, my name is Tom Woods with R2 Sports Technology. In the next few minutes, we're going to look at one of our service offerings called GameBreak Scan. Appreciate you taking a few minutes to learn a little bit more about it. Before we get into that, I always give a quick background on who we are and where we come from. I'm actually not a football coach. I'm a data analysis person, if you will. For the last 16, 17 years, the bulk of our work has been in the aerospace and defense industry. We do a lot of data work for organizations like NASA, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, the Missile Defense Agency, organizations like that. In a nutshell, what we do is we help those organizations make sense of large volumes of data. A couple seasons back, we ran into some film breakdown data from some football coaches that was kind of teed up well for the types of things we do. And so we've, over these last several seasons, been working with football teams across the country. So when we share some of the stuff with you, you always hear me speak from a data perspective. I think we understand the game, we appreciate the game, but we'd never pretend to overstep in terms of what we know about it. You're a coach. You know how to coach. You know how to prepare guys to go and win a football game. What we do well is take the film data that you have and the information that you gather, and we can get as much out of it as possible, and we can help you gain insights that are in there that you might otherwise miss. So in this application called GameBreak Scan, we're going to take just a few minutes and walk you through it, show you some examples of how it all works. But going to take a couple minutes to kind of set the framework of what it's really all about. When we talk about GameBreak Scan, we tell coaches that if you're like most, you probably are accessing only about 1% of your film data's potential. And the reason for that isn't because you don't know what you're doing or your film systems aren't any good. That's not the case. It's just it's a nature of the way tendencies work. And so we're going to take a second and kind of talk about that. You're spending a lot of time each week breaking down film on your opponent. You're doing that because you want to find an identifiable tendency, something that you can be confident enough in that you can do something about. The challenge is that most of the tendencies that we find and that you get out of a typical film system report are what we call soft tendencies. And the reality is a tendency can exist in any possible combination of situational factors. Most of our reporting focuses on a couple types of combinations, if you will. We'll look at a down and distance report, or a formation-based report, or maybe a field position-based report. And we get little slices of where there might be a tendency. But what we fail to realize sometimes is that a tendency, again, can be in any combination of things. So the perfect example is your opponent may not show you an identifiable tendency on 2nd down and 7, let's say. It's just they don't do anything obvious enough that can be picked up there. But where you may find a tendency would be on, say, 2nd down and 7 when they're on the left hash between the 40s and they use a certain motion. When you get a combination of those things together, that's when you start to see the 80 and 90% tendency things show up that you can actually do something about. The challenge, though, exists. The challenge is that there's so many different possible combinations that it's hard to search through them all to find them. So if you see down here on the slide, this is kind of what we're driving at here. This is an example. If you look at this table, this is a typical film breakdown from one of our clients that we would see on a usual week, where they're breaking down things like down, distance, hash, personnel groups, formations, back sets, field zones, those types of information. Now, in each one of those different groupings, there's several different items that show up in there. So, for example, there's 4 downs. There might be 5 personnel groups that show up in the breakdown data. There could be a dozen or 15 different formations that get shown. So there's lots of different items in each one of these categories. And a tendency can be in any combination of those. A team might show a tendency based on hash and back set, for all we know. So because most film systems reports don't tend to look there, you tend to miss most things. And so most of what you do find are these what we call, again, soft tendencies, things that happen with less than 50% likelihood, something you can't really do anything about because there's a greater likelihood it's not going to happen than it is. But what you'll find is that your film data is full of high probability tendencies, things that happen well more than 50%. In fact, most times 80, 90, 100% tendencies are all over the place in there. They're just in these unique combinations that are hard to find. And so it becomes, like it says down there at the bottom, it becomes a math problem, because to find those and to search through every possible combination is a very challenging thing. So just kind of take a look at the next slide here. We'll kind of show us a little bit more of the math behind that. If you see here in this example, the number of different possibilities is a multiplication problem. It's 4 downs times 4 distances times 3 hashes times 5 personnel groups times yada da 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 da. And what you'll find in this simple example, there's over 1.7 million different combinations where a tendency could potentially be hidden, and may be a game-changing type of tendency. Now that's just not something that is, you can't possibly do that by hand, clearly. I mean, nobody would, nobody could. So your odds of finding those tendencies, if you're using your film system or doing things on a manual basis, are 0. You're never going to uncover every potential tendency that exists in there. So what we're going to show you here in a second, our GameBreak scan offering does allow you to look through every conceivable combination in minutes. And it's because it's software. And so in effect, what GameBreak scan does, our clients break down their film, they send us their raw film data, and we're able to scan it. And in a matter of minutes, go through 1.7 million different possible combinations, find everything that is a high probability tendency, something that's greater than 50%, log it all and report it back to you in a matter of minutes. So what this does is literally turn over every stone for you. Now we're going to step out of this presentation for a minute. I'm going to show you kind of how this thing works. We'll show you what the report looks like that comes back. Hopefully this gives you a better idea of what this scanning is all about. Let's start real quick in just some film data, if you will. So this is an example of the type of data that we would get, probably very similar to the type of data that you generate on a weekly basis, right? This is an export out of a film system where this guy has recorded breakdown data. So in here he's got things like down, distance, hash, field position, personnel group formation, you name it. He's got all these different things. And so what we do when we receive data like this, and again the point being that if he was looking to predict maybe what direction a team is going to run or what play they're going to run, to find those high probability tendencies, we need to look through every combination of things. So in effect, we'd be looking for, let's check every first down play, and let's check first down in this personnel group, and first down in this personnel group, in this formation. Combination after combination would have to be checked, not something that's possible to do by hand. So with our scanner, we receive this information, we're able to scan it, say instantly, takes a couple minutes, scan through every conceivable combination of situational factors in here, and try and predict things on the other side and show where these tendencies lie. So it all starts here with this raw film data that you're probably familiar with. Now once something's done being scanned, this is what you'll get back. This is an example of a set of scan results. So we package this into an interactive report that comes back to you. There's 2 tabs in this report we'll look at here. And when we scan data, we run 2 different types of scans. The first is called a situational scan, which is it's very much in keeping with the way we think about tendencies. We look at situations and we show what can be predicted for that situation. Okay. Now in a second I'll show you a second type of scan. We run this a little bit different, but let's talk about a situational scan here for a second. So in this report that you see here, along the top you'll see a section that's called indicators. So in this case we're seeing things like down and distance, hash, field zone, formation, tree, backfield. These are the different items that we scanned through. So in this case I think we're looking at an opposing offense. So those indicators, again, we looked at every combination of the things that you see above here. So every combination of down and distance and hash and field zone and formation, you name it. Those are the items that we search through, we scan through in this data. Down here on the left you'll see tendencies. And these down here are the things that we were looking to try and predict. So in this case we were trying to predict things about the gap that they run into, the play they run, the direction of the play, whether it's a run or a pass, who's getting the ball, the protection they're in, any number of things we can scan for. So we were looking at every combination of things along the top and looking to predict the things you see along here on the left. Now this main section you see here is where all the results lie. And the way you read these, you just read across each column. What this is telling us here is that we have 100% tendencies that the play direction is going to the left, in this case, if I'm reading across here. And it's in all these different situations where you see this indicators block. So just to give you an example, this first one, there's a 100% tendency that the play is going to the left if this team if it's 1st and 10 and they're in a tray Y flex formation. That combination, you see over here this 8 out of 8, that tells you there were 8 times in your film breakdown data, and this guy's data, where they were 1st and 10 in a tray Y flex, and all 8 times the play went to the left. Okay, so you'll see different combinations of things all throughout here. Now in this example here, there are literally thousands of tendencies, all of which are 50% or higher. Now, the other things you see on this form here, these are all filters that allow us to kind of hone in on things and zoom in and take a look at things. But, it's all interactive. So if I give you a quick example, let's say there's an 83% tendency right in here that they're going to run a lead G play. If I wanted to see that, I would just come here and just click on that 83, and in a second it's going to take me right to where those situations are. So in just a second here we'll see the first one here. 83% on a lead G in this situation when we see an A strong backfield with a W fly motion. So this is a situation, this is a tendency, an 83% tendency that's a function of backfield and motion, not something that's in a typical film system report, something that probably very likely would have been missed, but something that's easy to identify in a game. You could detect when this play is coming. So this report allows you, it packages literally thousands of tendencies in here. It allows you to very quickly search and sort and hone in on areas that may be of concern to you to see if a tendency exists in that spot. Give you one more quick example. I could come up here and look at my indicators and say I want to see tendencies that have something to do with 11 personnel. I can select that when they are between the 40s, let's say, on a 2nd and 7+. So I can go boom, 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 and pick a situation. Here's everything that fits that criteria for me, and I can see the tendencies that exist here. 80% they're going to the right. Now, I mentioned there's two types of scans that we run, and the second report here is called an outcome scan. Now, situational scan, again, is what we typically think of in terms of a tendency. We're thinking of here's a situation, and here's what we can predict based on that situation. An outcome scan is very powerful, but it works in reverse. In effect, we can look at specific plays or specific outcomes, and we can see what the high probability indicators are for it. You'll see here in a second, it's almost like the power of knowing what's not going to happen in a certain situation. Let me give you a quick example. So in an outcome scan, again, what we're now doing is we're basically flipping it. Before we looked at all the situations and predicted what's going to happen. Now we're going to start with things that happen and look back and see if we can detect what we should be queuing off of. So in this case, you'll see down the left side a list of outcomes. These are all the different things that we were scanning for, tendencies basically. Play type, play, position, play direction, you name it, all this stuff over here on the left. Now you see this box of bubbles here in the middle. What we do is the bigger and more red a dot is, means it's a strong indicator that a given outcome might be coming. Now let me give you a quick example. Let's isolate one thing here as a quick example. Let's pick a play, and let's look at their A slip screen. Okay. Now when I select A slip screen, you see these different bubbles pop up. What this is telling me is this. Let's take a look at the 11 personnel down here. It's a big red dot, and it says 6 out of 6. So what that means is that all 6 slip screens, A slip screens in your film data, all 6 of them came from 11 personnel. So if you see 11 personnel, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to run a slip screen. But if you're looking for that slip screen, you need to be queuing into 11 personnel. If you're worried about that slip screen and they roll out and they're in 10 personnel or they're in 12 personnel, you don't need to worry about it because they've never run one except out of 11 personnel. You can also see 4 out of the 6 came from an A strong backfield, a 3x1 look, usually on the right hash. So those are the things to queue off of if you're worried about that specific play. And if you are, and again, if you come out and they're on the left hash, odds are you're not going to worry about it. So you can isolate any given outcome that may be giving you concern, maybe keeping you up at night, and you can very quickly identify the situations where you're most likely to see that come. Okay? Now, so again, it all comes down to your film data. The biggest challenge, again, with identifying high probability tendencies, things that happen with 80, 90, 100% certainty, is that they're not in obvious places. And because they're not in obvious places, that makes them hard to find by hand because you have to search through unique combinations and find what is that combination where it reveals itself. That's not amenable to do by hand. GameBreak Scan, because it's a software-based application we have, we receive your data, we run it through our scanner, we can literally turn over every stone and uncover every conceivable tendency in your data and send you back this interactive report that can very quickly help you identify things that can change the outcome of a game. Just to kind of wrap things up, and certainly we'd be happy to answer questions for you separately and do all that. But this is just a quick reminder of how our clients work with us. The touch point we have with our client is your film breakdown data. So if you break down film in any film system, Exos, DV Sport, Huddle, you name it, you export your data to an Excel compatible file. You send that to us. We run the scans. We do you'll see other. We have other demos here for other things we do with your film data. But that comes to us. We scan it. We send it back to you, and you have this interactive report that you can go and explore and find the keys you need to beat the team you're playing that week. If you have questions, you'll see our contact information down here. Don't hesitate to give us a call. If you're interested in firing up a demo of some of your data, by all means, reach out to us. We'd love to do that for you to show you how it works. Thanks for taking time. We'll look forward to talking to you soon.